Hello guys, this is PushDustIn with Source Gaming, and joining me today is Wolfman.
Hello, happy to be here.
And today we'll be talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's been about a week since we first got our hands on the game, and I thought it would be a good time to give kind of our ongoing impressions of it. I've written a review for Breath of the Wild on Source Gaming, so if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description below. Wolfman, you're actually playing on the Wii U.
Yeah, I plan to get a Switch because I like Nintendo and I'm interested in the machine, and also because I kind of have to so I can write more on the site. But for the time being, I think it's not always the best to get a console at launch, and my Wii U is a good old machine. It's I want it to have its nice swan song, and what a swan song this is.
It's such a beautiful game.
It is astonishing. It looks good. It looks excellent. This is just... It feels like the apotheosis of the design of, like, every Zelda. And we're gonna get to this more, but, like, you could see bits of... Just in the design alone, you could see bits from Wind Waker, bits from Twilight Princess, bits from Skyward Sword. I'm pretty sure you could find stuff from Zelda 1 and A Link to the Past in there, too. It's astonishingly good.
Yeah. There's even bits of Majora's Mask.
Do you mean like the lakes? With
the NPCs and the general.
Yeah, I definitely see that. There's like an actual sense of really community there that you also get in Link's Awakening.
Yep. We'll be talking about Legend of Zelda, but we'll try to keep things a little vague for people who haven't finished the game yet.
Yeah. One thing, I know you're less concerned about spoilers than I am, Push, and normally I'm not, but I kind of am in this case, because I feel like, ideally, this is a game where you kind of go into it knowing as little as possible. Like, for me, the worst 2 hours of Breath of the Wild were the first 2 hours, when I'm just on the Great Plateau, not because it's bad, in fact, it's excellent, it's one of the best... No, it is probably the absolute best introduction any Zelda game has had. It's a tutorial, but it also doesn't hold your hand, but it's also not really that punitive when you die, and it's really just fun and exciting, but it also manages to give you an actual tutorial. But because I saw all the E3 footage, I'd seen a lot of the pre-release footage a lot of the news sites had, so I kind of knew a lot of what you did. Like, I knew you could find the Korok in the on the roof of the Temple of Time, and I knew that you could, like, find the spicy peppers early on, like, right by the easy access to Mount Hylia. And so, really, the point where the game, like, really started clicking came from two areas. One is when I jumped off, and I was told I had to go in a cardinal direction, and I decided to do so because this is kind of a difficult game. And I just realized, like, there was no real waypoint line. There was a point I had to go to, but it was pretty vague. And even the game itself is like, you kind of go sort of here, but you still gonna have to make this on your own. The other came from the Zora quest, where I was going through this area in incredible inclement weather and came across their version of, like, the Zora community, and it just blew my mind. Like, there's not really any real reason why. It just was, like, my jaw just slacked at seeing this. It was just incredible.
I think the fact that they had no loading time to go into the Zora community, that's where it really clicked to me that the game didn't have boundaries, didn't have artificial boundaries, Like with Wind Waker, you had to go approach the islands, but you were still outside of the boundaries.
Yeah.
You couldn't interact with the island unless you're at a certain point.
I mean, that's true. And I do think, like, obviously Wind Waker did suffer from, like, those technical limitations, and the whole reason, and part of the reason for putting on the ocean was to get around that, but I think, like, I really love the way that Wind Waker does it, because it really, again, it suffers those physical limitations and has to work around those, but it still does it. like, yeah, there's loading, but it's able to hide it in a way I think that's a little more subtle.
Yeah, like I think Skyward Sword is a little bit more.
Skyward Sword is pretty blatant.
Yeah.
In a way, like, we're gonna talk about how Zelda, this is like I don't want to say a return to form, but definitely it works with the original Zelda most of all, but I also really feel like this is the full sequel to Wind Waker. Like, this is the one that capitalized on Wind Waker's ethos just as much as Zelda 1's, and probably Ocarina's as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can definitely see the effects of Wind Waker on Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Like, you have a lot of... you have the Koroks, for example. You have the Ritos.
Yeah, the Deku Leaf, And I also think, though, that what you really get more than anything else is this sense of, like, high adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the reason why Wind Waker had an ocean is the same reason why Breath of the Wild is open world, and it's the same reason why Zelda 1 really tried its hardest to create this absolute open world where you could do anything. So, just as a side note, in, like, the lead up to this game coming out, I've been playing Zelda 1 a lot. I played it a little bit when I was a child, but this is like the most I've really put into it, and I'm just at the final dungeon, and it's great. And because I was kind of interested in sort of seeing what, like, what's in Zelda 1 that's different. And the thing is that Zelda 1 really is a very different game than the sequels, at least in structure. Mm-hmm. Certainly it's more open-ended. It's much less handholdy. It's about the opposite of that, actually.
Yeah.
But it's also really just well-designed because it doesn't necessarily need to be. The game is actually structured in a way where there is an actual difficulty curve. It's just, like, done subtly and not done explicitly. Mm-hmm. You can't go to Dungeon 6, not because you can't go to Dungeon 6, you could. It's just difficult, and the enemies around it are more difficult, so it's just best to go to where the difficulty is lowest and slowly build yourself up.
Yeah, and I think Breath of the Wild does that really well.
Yeah, actually, the secret that I think is, like, kind of crazy is I think Breath of the Wild doesn't just follow up on Zelda 1, I think it exceeds it. I think the way it does difficulty is smarter, I think, but it still, like, takes the same ideas, it just does this in a way that I think is more subtle and accommodating. Mm-hmm. I think the way it does exploration is, in some ways, a little better. But again, it's hard to really fully compare because they're on such different, like, technologies and with such a different historical context, but I just love the fact that it's... Okay, this is going to be the part where it's going to be kind of silly because we can talk about, like, the technical skill or the structuring or the enemies or the mechanics, but I feel like Breath of the Wild especially, and Zelda 1 especially, are games that you kind of need to talk about in more of, like, almost this kind of weirdly holistic way. Like, it's about the feeling of climbing over that mountain, like a figurative mountain or a literal one, and just seeing how incredibly vast the world is. It's about being trapped in this weird space, and it seems like there are enemies at every turn, but you can just escape. It's about, like, solving this complex puzzle, about finding secrets that it almost seems like you really weren't supposed to know. Mm-hmm. And I think in that sense, like, it throws a lot of the old Zelda conventions out, but in some ways it doesn't feel any different. It doesn't feel like this is a rebuke to them so much as just a different way to get at that sense of exploration and adventure.
I will say one thing is, after a while though, I feel like for example with the Korok seeds, I feel like the puzzles kind of repeat themselves.
Oh, the puzzles do with the Koroks, and to be fair, I do think after a while, that's kind of okay. Like, they're basically... like they start as this really fun environmental puzzle, and then they kind of stop being that because I think they become much more of like just a bonus, and that's actually really fun too because it's almost more like delayed gratification by that point. Like first you see a weird puzzle and oh okay, maybe this is a Korok, and then by the next you see that puzzle, but you're happy because even if it's the same puzzle, it's getting to that's exciting. It's when you go to that top of the mountain and you're like, okay, I see this, stone, so I know it's a Korok, but it's a sense of like, yes, I knew that this would get me something, and it does because it gets me a great new vantage point, but it also gets this fun little, like, immediate bonus.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's kind of like in Skyward Sword when you had the goddess chests, or you hit the goddess stones, which caused, in Skyward Sword you find these giant magical cubes, and you hit them, and it causes the chest to appear in a different location, so it's almost like it adds another step into actually finding it, which can be a little frustrating, but also adds to the sense of adventure. You're like, it delays things just enough to make earning them feel more worthwhile.
Okay, so what parts of the game have you not enjoyed so much then?
To be honest,
is there anything?
I'm just loving this. I guess a couple things I would say is I love the weapon degradation system. I adore it. And I like that it starts you out with a small inventory. I do think, and I like that you can upgrade it. I do kind of wish they had made it a little clearer how that works over time. Basically, you find a character early on in the game, and he's near an area where you don't have to go, because you actually don't really have to do anything in this game.
Yeah.
After, like, the first hour. But, so he gives you a small side quest, and then he can upgrade your inventory. And then afterwards...
It's Nerbion.
Yes. It's Source Gaming contributor Nerbion. You find him again later on in a different location, and he says he's going back to his home. Now, and so that's a little frustrating because you basically see him in two different locations, but you don't necessarily know, and one of those is pretty out of the way.
Yeah, actually, the second time I just ran into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of unexpected.
Yeah, but I also like that it's kind of unexpected too. Like, it's just frustrating because by that point I kind of knew I needed to upgrade my inventory space because the difficulty was ramping up.
The first time, he does say that he's leaving.
Yeah. Oh no,
and
I know that.
I think if you were to follow his path, you would find him.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it's easier after the second encounter where it's a lot more clear that like the cardinal direction he's going.
Yeah.
I also, to be honest, like, this is a game I'm just really enjoying in general. I do think the tests of strength in the shrines are a little disappointing.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. In general, I don't really mind when the shrine puzzles repeat, because the only time I've really seen them repeating is those tests, and the one where you just go in and and just win, because getting to the shrine is itself the puzzle. And I love those. One in particular, I kind of want to talk about. Again, this is going to not be a spoiler because I really do think it's something that is best experienced on its own, but there is a location in the game where you basically go to an island, not like an outside island, but like an inlet. And you can't see what's in it because inside the island it's pitch black. And so the only way to get through the island is by using a torch and just kind of walking through, setting fires to lanterns, but otherwise having no idea where you're going. It was just the experience of going through that, of like figuring my way through that location, was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had playing a game. Or at least the best in like half a decade easily. It's just exciting. It was incredibly fun. I felt great doing it. And when it actually ended and I found like the secret, I felt so much empowerment. And I think that's something that this game does so well.
Yeah, and even getting to the Master Sword area
Yeah, I have gotten to the
Yep.
Master Sword area. I have not gotten the Master Sword.
I felt like that was a better lead up than a lot of the other Zelda games.
It's certainly, I guess it's not really much of a spoiler to say that there are a Lost Woods-esque forest that's called the Lost Woods.
Yeah.
And I think it was done better than any other game in the series.
Yeah. I think Ocarina of Time is definitely a close second. Because I enjoyed the music-based
Yeah. Oh,
challenge.
the one in Ocarina is great. And,
Yeah.
like, Zelda has always had this weird history of forests. Because you've always got the Lost Woods, but then you've got Deku Swamp and the Forbidden Woods. And I think it really goes into that, like, stuff Miyamoto has always talked about. That,
Yeah.
like, this is a game... And when I say that, I mean the original Zelda. It's a game that's based around this idea of looking out your window and seeing that there's a world beyond your home and beyond, like, normalcy. And then you go there, and you explore. You hike through the woods or over a mountain, or you see under a bridge. It's this thrill of knowing that there's this larger world, and you're, like, tearing your way through it. It's just incredibly intoxicating, and I think this, better than any other game in the series, understands that feeling. It's something that's really hard to describe because it's such a mercurial concept, but it's just done so unbelievably well, and I guess this is the point when I say I think what's really, like, the secret of this game... Actually, I don't want to take up too much of the conversation.
That's okay.
You go.
So yeah, the thing that I've been really enjoying about Breath of the Wild is actually documenting everything.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I just love, taking pictures of all the weapons and all the enemies and materials and everything.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. In general, I'm a big fan of doing stuff like that in games, but I love it here. It's also nice because it has, like, an actual very clear bonus effect.
Yeah,
because you...
Then you can use the Sheikah sensor.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is also just a brilliant concept, too. Nintendo always does this with their stuff. Like, you remember in Super Mario 64 how the way they explain how you move a camera is that you use the Lakitu?
Yep.
It's in... What I love is with the Sheikah Slate is it just takes that idea forward. Like, it's not just your fantasy iPad that gives you crazy magical powers. It's also tied to the fast travel system. It's tied to plot progression. It's... Like, I love that all of these concepts that are sort of, like, taken for granted in open world games are just, like, it's part of a universe you interact with.
Yeah, it's kind of tied down to the game.
Yeah.
Kind of expands its universe.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's kind of the reason I'm really loving this game, too. It's not just that it's, like, a response to Zelda, but kind of a response to a lot of contemporary modern video games. Like, I think a lot of us have played, like, a mediocre Ubisoft sandbox game at one point in our lives.
Actually, I haven't.
Oh.
But go on.
Okay, where it's like, the whole idea is it's kind of, like, really depressing in a way because they basically take the concept of an open world game, one where you literally can go around the world at your leisure, and they turn it into this, they make it rote and mediocre and, like, banal. Like, all of the actions you do are very, like, mechanical, and all of the, like, things you get are very basic. Like, they're very, I don't know, it's hard to, again, really describe it in these terms, but there's just such a lack of life in them that they try to artificially represent with overstuffed tutorials and pointless extra race challenges that don't really matter or things. What I love here is this is just a game where you, like, if you look at the map, it's just so empty, and that's great. It's literally just a few towers, all of the stuff that's tied to the Sheikah Slate, and that's it. I love that. I love that it demands you engage with the world, because you're going to want to engage with the world, because this world is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely felt like a huge sense of joy every time I activated a Sheikah tower.
It's also, like, it gives you real benefits, too. Like, because you can warp to the top of there and then jump off, because this game's world is huge. It's not like Skyrim huge, but it's huge. But it doesn't really feel as big because you have such a freedom of movement with the glider.
Mm-hmm. And also the warp points really help traveling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I actually haven't used my horse that much.
Yeah, I forgot my horse. I got him and then forgot about him. So sorry, Batman the horse.
I named mine Nantanjax, actually.
Oh.
So that way when I whistle, he can't come.
My next one I'll name, I don't know, Hieronymus. Or I'll name him after the king who has the craziest name in Zelda history, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it's okay if I talk about the amiibo unlocks real quick?
I think that's fine.
Okay. So, I did not know that the Legend of Zelda, the Link amiibo from Smash unlocked Epona. And so I actually spawned her in the Great Plateau, where there's no stable.
Oh.
And, I was like, fuck. So I tried riding her off the Great Plateau.
Yeah.
And I killed her.
Of course.
And now I can't get Epona. Like, that's it.
They only give you one chance.
They only give you one chance, I guess.
I love this game. I love the fact that you can use the Fulton system from NGS5, but you use Octorok guts to do it. I love the fact that the goddamn centaur monsters from Zelda 1 are in this game.
Yeah.
I guess they were in A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds too, but it's different.
This is the first time they're really in 3D.
Yeah, and it's the first time they're interesting.
Yeah.
I love that mission, by the way, the one where you have to... oh, sorry.
Well, the Sora one, right?
Yeah, that one's one you're gonna have to learn yourselves, Source Gaming viewers.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Where do you think the game could go from here? Where can Zelda go from here?
That's a tough question. My feeling is this. Nintendo will make 2D Zelda games, and they'll be a little more classic in style. They'll be more linear, their design principles will be more about, like, unlocking these items from these intricate levels and using them to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll be fine. I think linearity has its place, and it absolutely has its place in Zelda. And I think there is a value in not abandoning the older style, because it's still a very good style.
Yeah.
Having said that, I feel like this is kind of what I want from the 3D games from now on. Like, I want every 6 years, no later than every few years, for like a long amount of time, for Nintendo to just make a new giant game. Something that basically does this and evolves its ideas and hopefully tries to be radical in the way this is radical.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to imagine them one-upping Breath of the Wild. I mean, there's definitely rooms for improvement. I mentioned a couple areas where I thought Breath of the Wild was lacking in the review, but even they're the minor things, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you could say it's like this, but slightly better, but that's not really an improvement.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're thinking of, like, this game, it feels radical, and in many ways it is radical. And so we kind of, like, what we like about it is that, and so we want a sequel, not just to be this bit better, we want it to give us the same sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, to be radical again.
Yeah.
I guess maybe like an MMORPG style Zelda would be pretty radical.
I feel like, I don't want to just, like, shoot down the idea. I do think that would be not necessarily great, if only because I do think that Zelda probably works best with a single-player focus.
Triforce Heroes, man.
I know.
The game was amazing.
Yeah. And, I've never played it or Four Swords Adventure, which both are cool. I think Four Swords and Triforce Heroes are both kind of brilliant in the way they do multiplayer, because it's cooperation and competition.
Yeah. A lot of Nintendo games are like that, with like Mario, for example.
Mario Party, Smash. Yeah. There's, a sense that they kind of know you're going to fight with the controller.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really love about this as an open world game is that it's so polished. Like, there have been so many, like, I love Skyrim, and it's easy for this to compare this to Skyrim, but like, one of the things, and I don't want to say that this like ruins Skyrim for me or some kind of equivalent thing, because that's not really true, but playing this, it's kind of amazing in how like clear and how huge the flaws are, which were always there, but this only exacerbates them. Like, the sense that like that everything is in this overstuffed map, the not really interesting characters or communities, the sense of lifelessness and automation, and the glitches.
Yeah.
The constant glitches, which this game is pretty lacking in.
Yeah. There's only some major glitches that I've seen.
Yeah, and those are like pretty out of the way.
Like, you don't really encounter them during normal play.
Yeah, like the one where you can soft lock the game if you put your horse on a teleport entrance and then teleport there.
Yeah.
Like, that's like that's something where you actively have to find that. And it's just amazing how polished this is. It's like, we have seen so many games that have come out in the past few years that are just so full of glitches and clearly rushed design, where it was like, well, we can't account for all these glitches because we have to get it out on time because that's what the fans want. And it's kind of amazing that we see, here's what, 4 years, a few delays, and a willingness to actually commit to polish get you. And what it gets you is one of the best games I've played in a decade.
Yeah, it's incredibly well polished. I can't think, and like the thing is, like, each area in the world feels unique.
Yeah, every area is really cool. Like, I want to go to each different place because I know that I've only scratched the surface of each one. I actually went to the Great Plateau earlier today. I went back, and I found like 5 Koroks, and I actually found one in an area that made me laugh so hard. I really hope other people find it. And I don't want to like mention which one it is because it's such a good joke. I just could not handle it. It's brilliant.
Another way that the game feels really polished is the fact that the NPCs will react differently.
Yeah,
depending on what you do, or
and what you wear.
So, for example, there was a quest where this lady, it's one of the first side quests you can get. It's in Kakariko village, and you're supposed to like light a torch. And I used a fire rod to light the torch, and she was pissed about that because I didn't use an arrow. And so she actually like sat there and like compared me to her joke of a husband for like a couple minutes.
That's amazing. Oh, I missed that. I think I missed that anyway. I gotta go find it now.
Yeah, but there's just lots of little things like that. Like, depending on how you do things, will really depend on what kind of story, I guess, text path you'll get.
Yeah. I also really love like, the one I found, like, the only one that doesn't do that is one Zora quest, where I found a Zora, and then later met him at Zora's domain, and he didn't remember me. Like, that's it. Every other time, it seems incredibly responsive to what I say.
Yeah, even with the old man in the Great Plateau, you can be a total jerk to him.
Oh yeah, you can, and you can also read his secret diary.
Yep.
Which is great, and you can learn how to cook food.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a real Zelda. Or Link, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess
Just
the
like
next...
a real Hylian.
Yeah. The next hero will be the hero of the pot.
Oh, I would absolutely love for Zelda to take this cooking direction and just run with it. Cooking is so fun in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's so rewarding.
I really think it has, like, think it has, like, a mechanical level. I think it's the timing.
Yeah.
And, like, the sound effects. I think it all really clicks well together.
Yeah, it makes it feel like it's all these little moments of polish that just... Like, you kind of like that little thing where Link does the cute little jig when he gets a good food dish, and when the sound changes when you get, like, a really good dish.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that, like the way animals move in relationship to, like, in relation to you, or the point where I just suddenly fought a bear randomly.
Yeah, and, like, if wolves attack you in packs, if you kill one, then they'll start running away.
Yeah. I found that out, though, actually later on, because the first time I used a giant magical, like lightning sword in the middle of a rainstorm, so it killed them all instantly. Which was awesome. Like, the inclement weather is great. Like, that's amazing. I love the fact that there's all these interlocking systems, and they just constantly work together. Like, the way the water and the ice and the lightning and the ice and the wind they all work together. Constantly. It's just incredible how, like, that's the thing. It's not just that it's polished, and it's not just that it's big. It's that it has really ambitious ideas about how to come up with systemic, like, emergent gameplay systems, and it runs with them, and they all work.
Yeah.
Like, you can, if you want, you can exploit that thing where you get electrocuted in a lightning storm by throwing a metal item at an enemy.
Yeah. And it'll affect them.
Yeah. And they'll do that to you. I was actually just fighting a group of moblins, or a group of bokoblins today, and they started throwing explosive barrels at me and then shooting them with fire arrows. Like, that's the thing I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, just very, very polished.
It's a game that's, like, made for the anecdote. Like, it's a game meant for immediate last-second escapes of crazy harebrained solutions that somehow manage to work, of wonderful little, like, brick jokes, of being surprised that something works, and of trying something crazy and finding out either that works, or that it didn't work so badly that it was a failure. I think one time I got attacked by an enemy, and they started shooting me with bows, like lightning-powered like arrows. And so I hid behind a rock because, you know, that's what I wanted to do, because I was going to die in one hit from these. And then suddenly they start shooting upwards.
Yeah.
And then I realize they're shooting upwards because they're going to drop the arrows on me from on high, where they'll have more weight and be even stronger. And then I started running.
Yeah, you're just like, get the fuck out of here.
And then I started paragliding. And then I had to drop out of the paraglider because they kept aiming for me using the paraglider.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging.
Oh yeah, I've died a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've died like 50 times.
Yeah.
But it's a really satisfying challenge. Like, you never feel like it's too difficult, because you know that there are easier enemies in another part of the map. And even with the degradable weapons, it still feels like you have enough tools to at least survive. Maybe not to beat the enemies, but at least to survive. And so when you do, like, when you manage to, like, stop this enemy that seems completely impossible, and against all hope, it just feels so incredibly empowering. Because it's almost like, it's not just like you beat in a fight, you've solved a puzzle.
Yeah.
Because everything in this game is this elaborate puzzle.
And one thing I do like is the fact that weapons are kind of your way of increasing your strength.
Yeah, I like that I've never been a fan, or I'm not gonna say I've never been a fan, because there are games where I really like the experience point systems, but I really like that this doesn't exist in Zelda, that you are tied to these gears, to your gear, but the gear can go away, but that's okay, because you'll always find something new that is comparably good, if not necessarily always as good. And even if you don't, that's okay too, because sometimes it's okay to use like a shitty, like a tree branch or a mop or a severed arm of your skeletal enemy. Because this is a game where you just like it. I think it's the reason why the degradable system works is, I mean, you said it, that you're constantly getting stronger, but also that like it always gives you a sense of like not being in control enough that when you succeed it feels so much better.
Yeah, I think it really highlights the choice.
Yeah.
That Breath of the Wild has. The fact that, you know, you could throw away all your weapons and just start from ground zero again. Kind of.
Yeah. But you'd still be stronger because by that point you've probably like gone through shrines and gained a huge amount of power in other respects. And I also kind of like the fact that the difficulty could kind of go up and down on that. Like, there are times where you'll want to use a weaker weapon because you're fighting a weaker enemy or because you're doing something that will probably break it. And it's kind of nice to go back and remember that, you know, the spear you're using is way less good than the spear you used to have, but you're better with it. Yeah. You're more skilled. And that's what really changes. Like, I remember fighting a group of bokoblins who were like starting level, and they were actually kind of kicking my ass. But I did even better. But I also felt better because I knew the mechanics better, and I understood, like, this is how you use a spear. You're gonna fight them this amount of time, block them, hit them, flurry rush, and then throw it right before it breaks.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about the spears is the fact that you could get really a good distance before attacking them.
Yeah, I'm a big spear fan.
Yeah.
Dark Souls and in Castlevania, I believe spears are always the safest.
I use them a lot in the various bosses in the game.
Yeah, I ended up bringing out my big swords. Like, I tried hoarding stuff, but you don't really hoard stuff in this game. Like,
it's kind of difficult with the limited inventory space.
Yeah, it's usually best to, like, save it for hairier encounters, but eventually you're gonna go through it. That giant, crazy, like, brown metal Sheikah sword is gonna break on me eventually. And it's really, and the one I have is super strong, but I know it's gonna break. I've used it before. So I may as well just prepare, and when the time comes, I'll just have to accept it and move on.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's it. Like, it's this serenity the game really has. Like, you could even see that with Ganon. Like, he's there. He's this constant presence whose like very existence is corrupting and corroding the world. It's like you see him all the time because at any point in the game you can look and see Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
And you can also see, like, how difficult it is to live in a world where Ganon has at least partially won. Where these mighty communities have now gone to fledgling villages, and where people are scared to walk out of their homes at night because of bokoblin raids or these errant machines that are stalking the land.
Yeah.
But it's also a world where people have kind of moved on from Ganon too. Like, they've managed to eke out a life without him. And there's something I think kind of empowering about that like, they can get over the apocalypse and they can survive despite how horrible it is. And you can do that too. Yeah,
they kind of carve their own life.
Yeah, I think there's something really compelling about that idea of being able to, like, of seeing the world as bad as it is, but still, and not, denying how evil he is and how scary so much of this land is and how, like, untamed it is, but the communities are lively, the people are funny and cute and quirky. The guy who shows you around Heteno village, that was great. I don't really care about spoiling this part because it's not as, I think, as crazy of a deal, but basically you get a tour guide into this one town, kind of like a Pokemon game, except you don't actually have to follow him. He can just go off and you can follow him at your own pace. It's just, but you kind of want to.
I don't think I actually got that tour.
Oh, if you go back, he does it all the time. He's great. He runs around. He's super excited. He is like the most excited anyone has ever been about being a tour guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This is like a crazy water cooler game, isn't it? Like,
yeah, because you're like, oh, did you hear about this or did you hear about that?
Yeah, I only just today heard from someone online that you could apparently buy an object that gets bokoblin skeletons to like follow you for a few minutes.
Huh.
I don't know if that exists. I don't know where if anywhere you could get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it. And I'm going to now put in effort to go around the land finding this if it exists.
Yeah, there's just so many things that are still secret in this game. There's one treasure chest that, or one side quest, I should say, that you had to be there at 5 o'clock, I think. Like, you had to be in a specific location at 5 o'clock. So, the possibilities are endless, really, with this engine.
Yeah, and I think that's like we're talking about, like, you know, the original Zelda game and things, and I think that's like something people kind of forget is that there aren't games, Zelda being one of the biggest in history, the first Zelda, that are these real water cooler games where you like talk to your friends about it the morning after you play like one session and you're like, did you go to this area? Did you find this secret? And it's almost like a collaboration that's got a little bit of competition because everyone's trying to find secrets on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really exciting. There's like a drive, and I think while the game I'm sure will still be great after it's over or after it's long been out, and I do think even with time I'm gonna have a very positive impression of this game in the weeks and years to come. But that's something that's like especially exciting now when the game's out and people really have no idea of how big it actually is. Like, I don't know how many Koroks are in the game.
Oh, that's been announced.
How
by
much?
Strategy Guide. I think it's over 900.
Jesus.
I think it's
That's
900.
insane.
900.
Yeah, the first thing I heard was 200, and then Patricia Hernandez at Kotaku claimed it was 900, and I was like, okay, that's got to be an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Apparently, Zelda Breath of the Wild once again proves me wrong.
So, yeah, and there's 120 shrines.
Yeah, I knew that, and I've got about 51 of them under my belt right now.
Yeah.
But it still feels like there's still so many of them to find, and I also want to go through the side quests and find all these crazy islands. I found, like, one location that's named after Tingle, and I really want to find out what's there.
Oh, really? I haven't found that yet.
Yeah,
I gotta find that. Love Tingle.
Yeah, Tingle's great.
Yeah.
And I like that even now he's always going to have a little bit of a presence. Actually, it's kind of nuts how many, like, references there are. Like, I know some people have been talking about how it feels a little bit like too much of a departure from Zelda, but regardless of the mechanics or the systems, this is one of the most Zelda-y games around. Like,
it's very much rooted in its lore.
Yeah, like, at any point when you're looking around, you could find references to characters from Majora's Mask, from Link's Awakening, from even Minish Cap got references. Yeah. There's parts in the story that actually reference Fi, and I was, you know, I don't like Fi as a character, but I like the concept of that the Master Sword actually has a crazy computer program built by the gods.
You like the continuity.
I like the continuity, but I like the concept, but yeah, I also like the continuity and the idea that, yeah, it's probably something a lot of Zeldas should know about.
Yeah.
But even then, it feels like it for all that they've talked about it being a return to the original game, it really does feel so steeped in the history of the series. Like, the community, like we talked about the communities feeling evocative of Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening, or the art style and the sense of exploration of Wind Waker, or the combat of Skyward Sword, or the, like, steeped in legacy that you get from Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time. This is a game that just feels like the natural, maybe not the natural evolution of all Zelda games, but it feels like the grand apotheosis of every idea that they could have had for a large open world interpretation of The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I completely agree. It really does feel like they've been building up towards this. But like I said, I kind of worried about where can they go from here. But
personally, I wouldn't really be worried about that. I do think, like, the truth is that there's probably going to be struggles as Nintendo tries to capitalize on this while also trying to bring in more traditional Zelda stuff, while also trying to innovate, while also trying to account for how the series kind of needs to take it slow. Like, I do think we're going to need to come to a point where at least these major 3D open world, huge exploratory Zeldas, they can't come out more than once every 5 years.
Yeah. It would just overwhelm. It would kind of oversaturate.
It would oversaturate, and it would also, I think, reduce and diminish the sense of mystique and grandeur of each game. Like, we talk sometimes about how Smash is like an event, or a new Grand Theft Auto is an event.
Yeah.
And this Zelda is the first that's been in a real event since Twilight Princess. It's the thing kind of everyone's talking about, and this is like a very fortunate instance of that being the case, because this is a fantastic game.
Okay, well, I think we can keep gushing about Breath of the Wild for hours and hours, but I think we should wrap up the discussion. Yeah. So, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to add in before?
Yeah. There are times where I play games, in general, like, as I'm a critic, and I try to, and I enjoy games, but I also try to give a certain degree of distance, not because I don't want to enjoy them, I do, I like that the distance offers me an opportunity to see the wider scope of the game. And I'm doing that with Zelda. But this is the first I've played in a long time where I feel not just comfortable with, but also happy to just completely set myself adrift. To just soak in this absolutely incredible, incredible world. There are so many points in this game where I have just been shocked at what I've seen. Things that are just incredible and funny and scary and threatening and exciting. It fulfills the implicit promise so many open world games make and so few capitalize on. That you will find new, wonderful, exciting, fun things at every turn. For you, Push?
Like I said in my review, I think it's essentially a perfect game. There are some minor flaws here and there, but
as all games have.
Yeah, but they don't detract from the overall experience, and it's such a rich experience that it needs to be experienced.
Yeah, it's something where, like, you'll notice a lot of the tone of reviews treating almost like a religious experience. Like, people will talk about in breath tones about how you have to experience this for yourself and everything, but it really is, like, this is an absolutely incredible experience.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Well, thank you guys for listening to our discussion. Where can people find you, Wolfman?
People can find me over at Source Gaming, of course, but also at I'm a frequent poster on the Gameological Society on the AV Club. And I assume, Push, you are still holding the fort here as our exciting boss.
Yes, I'm here on Source Gaming, of course, and you can follow me on Twitter. I'm PushDustIn. You can just search for that on Google, and that's me. Unless there's a dark PushDustIn somewhere.
Shadow PushDustIn of the Yiga clan. Oh, right, the Yiga clan. That's fucking crazy too. Pardon some.
That's okay.
Harsh language, but yeah, that was crazy. The part where the first time you know.
Yeah. They're bananas. Well, again, thank you guys for joining the discussion. I say subscribe to this channel for more interesting discussions, reviews, and lots of Switch coverage coming in the future.
We'll certainly be talking about Zelda a lot too.
Yeah. There's so much you can talk about with this game.
Yeah. I'm already thinking of at least one article. Probably we'll talk about more. This thing is taking up my life. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, see you guys.